So my Ojibwe name is Gigi Wewedamokwe, which means speaks in a loud and clear voice woman.
It's, as all of you know, necessary to fight climate change. It is now existential that we try to reduce our meat consumption.
It's come to my attention that it has a stark resemblance to a symbol that is used by neo-Nazis.
Speaks in a loud and clear voice. Okay, so that is the latest group of Democrats who have stepped into the national spotlight and are running for the Senate. Each one of those candidates is also currently leading in the polls. Chuck Todd has been covering politics for decades. He's the former host of Meet the Press and the current host of the Chuck Toddcast. Chuck, it's nice to have you back.
Good to see you, Rob.
The three names, so James Talrico, Graham Plattner, and Peggy Flanagan in Minnesota. I want to start with Graham Plattner in Maine. His posts are not great. This guy had this Nazi SS tattoo on his chest for almost 20 years. He just had it covered up when people started asking questions. Take a look.
It's come to my attention that it has a stark resemblance to a symbol that is used by neo-Nazis. For that reason, I have gone and gotten it covered up.
Chuck, he's now being endorsed by several really prominent Democrats in Washington. Can you explain how somebody like that is the right candidate for Democrats moving forward?
Well, I think what you have is, let's take a step back and acknowledge the 10 years that we've been living in, which is we've seen that the public, what maybe you and I would be uncomfortable with in voting for dealing, the public is like, hey, I'm less concerned about personal baggage and more concerned about what are you going to do about issue X, right? How do we know this? Donald Trump, right, in some ways is at the tip of the spear of this. So I think this is sort of a larger derivative where there's a larger group of people who says, hey, well, maybe my baggage is not that heavy and I can go ahead and run. So I do think you're seeing a little bit of that. You're seeing a little bit of, one might call sort of an overreaction among Democratic strategists who think, hey, one type of candidate hasn't been working. Let's go see if we can find our different kind of people, folks that will go
Chuck,
viral.
I wish I
think
disagreed
this is
with you.
in some ways a product of this larger, ecosystem where it's clear in general, while the gatekeepers, if you will,
right.
Like, people would accuse me of being a gatekeeper back in the old mainstream media days, right? The gatekeepers have their own opinions, and the voters have said, no, we don't really care about that. So ultimately, we're going to find out. The voters are going to decide.
I wish I could disagree with you. Look, I think if the election is held tomorrow in Maine, I think Graham Plattner beats Susan Collins. He's like,
and I think it's because he's not a conventional candidate.
No, he's like,
right?
he's a populist, and nothing
right.
sticks to him, and that happens to very few politicians, Donald Trump among them. Good point. I want to go to Texas. So poll came out today. James Talrico is in the lead in this race. Doesn't matter who wins for the Republicans. But this guy, Chuck, he said some really odd stuff in the past. Take a look.
There are many more than two biological sexes. In fact, there are 6.
Jesus Christ himself was a radical feminist. Our trans community needs abortion care too.
So, Chuck, trans people need abortion care too, according to James Talrico. Texas, one of the most Christian states in America. How does that work there?
You and I are both going to find out together. I'm not.
Does it work there?
Yeah, I've been curious myself, right? I think, and it's going to get litigated. We're going to see those quotes a lot in whether it's Paxton or Cornyn on that. But here's my experience on these candidates. And it really comes down to who runs the better campaign. The national environment says this is going to be a referendum on the party in power.
Right.
When it's a referendum on the party in power and you're part of the party in power, your job is to, no. We're going to make this an election of choice, and we want to make it a bit of a referendum on that change candidate. And I think that's what we're going to find out together. I think it's possible if this becomes about Talrico, then that becomes, I think, more problematic. If the campaign ends up becoming about Cornyn or Paxton, right? As you know, most campaigns are decided by
then maybe Talrico
who's become the referendum, right?
Okay.
Who are voters voting for or against?
I don't disagree with you. Want to get to the final candidate. So this is Tim Walz, Lieutenant Governor, Peggy Flanagan, Irish heritage. She's leading in the polls. This is Peggy Flanagan wearing a hijab around the state of Minnesota. We're dealing with this massive Somali fraud scandal in Minnesota. Why do that? Why do that and promote a group of people who are clearly hurting the state of Minnesota?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say that we're going to put the entire group of people, right? You know, and I think this is something that we all don't want to be, which is there's bad actors in any group of people if you get a large enough group of people together. So
yeah, no, I agree. But 78 people have been charged, 60 plus.
I understand that, and there's no doubt there's been some. You're asking why does she look? I think that in that sense that there are plenty of people who have been embracing the Somali community. So I understand it as a public servant that she might choose to do that, or as a politician. Now you're asking, I think, a very fair question. Is this going to play politically? But you're watching the same primaries I'm watching.
That's
right?
Chuck. That's why we had you on. It's like these three candidates. All three of them could win these races, and I think Republicans.
And they all may become United States senators.
Yeah, if they want to keep control of the Senate, Republicans have got to take this seriously. Like Susan Collins, particularly in Maine right now. We'll see what happens with that race. Chuck Todd, I want to have you back. Good to see you. Have a good weekend.
You got it.
Thank you.
Nice to talk with you.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.